Welcome to I Am Goddess Collective podcast, a sacred space for empowerment through modern magic, spiritual activism, and reclaiming your power. I am your host, Nixie Marie, feng shui practitioner, earth activist, and mystic, here to support and inspire your journey in becoming the change you wish to see in this world. That change starts within. Join myself and fellow thought leaders, metaphysical experts, and luminaries each week as we explore practical and magical ways to living in your highest alignment. Your journey as an empowered goddess begins here. Let's dive in. Hi, goddesses. Welcome back to the podcast. I hope that your weekend or your week, whenever you find yourself listening to this, has been magical. And if not, we're going to bring you some magic today, mostly all related to the astral realms. I was honored and privileged to interview a astrologer, Debra Silverman. Some of you guys might be familiar with her. Some of you might not. And I'm excited to bring her magic to your world today because she pretty much lit my fire up, and we did nothing but laugh and play on this podcast. So that is always such a joy when the inner child loves to come out. And that was really what the embodiment of Debra it brought to the show. So Debra is actually a world-renowned astrologer, and she is all about bringing practicality into astrology. So not so much like up there in the woo-woo realms of things that don't make sense, but she brings like a human approach so that we can all understand ourselves better, which I am all about. So I'm very excited for you guys to tune in. But before we do, I wanted to just remind you guys that I have been, not even remind you, but just say like thank you to all of the messages that I've been receiving, the reviews on Apple Podcasts, and just feeling the love lately. You guys are amazing. And I just wanted to remind you and tell you how amazing you are because I'm feeling the love, and I really appreciate those that have gone out and to write a review. If you haven't yet written a review on Apple Podcasts, please go over there and tell me what you think. Give me some love. Also, don't forget that we are also doing a little contest on sharing your favorite episode on your Instagram stories. If you do that and tag I Am Goddess Collective podcast on Instagram, you will get a chance to win a opportunity to sit with the online coven, the Goddess Life membership, in our full moon ritual next month. So that will be for September. You will be able to win that little space and know what it's like to be inside of an online coven. If you have not joined yet, if you're interested in committing to the membership, you can go on over and get more details on what that looks like. But you guys know I've been talking about it a lot, and it's just an amazing space to connect and go deeper on some of the things that we talk about on the podcast. So head on over to iamgoddesscollective.com/membership to find out more. It's $22 a month, or you can do a little drop in, $33 to see what it's all about if you're not quite sure yet. And don't forget to also go like us on Facebook. Go subscribe to our newsletter, and the newsletter is going to be back out in September. We do the Witchy Times newsletter, so go to our website, sign up for that if you're interested, and also join our Facebook group. We've got a lot of really good stuff happening over there, private, awesome conversations about just life things, being a witch, being a woman. You know how it goes. It's not easy out there, but we got you. So head on over to Facebook, join the Facebook group, and let's continue with these conversations. So, all right, Debra Silverman, you guys, she's on the show. I'm very excited. You guys are going to have fun with this one. And if you guys have any, insights or feedback, she is available all over the web. So find her, love her up, watch her funny YouTube videos, and enjoy this podcast with lots of laughter. Well, hello, sisters. Welcome back to another lovely episode. We have got a amazing woman, goddess, on the show today with us. Some of you might know her, some of you might not, and you might get a heavy deep dive into all of this woman's amazing work. But we've got Debra Silverman on the podcast today. Hello, Debra.
Woo!
Yeah, I'm super excited. I can already feel your energy is super fun and flirtatious, and so am I. So I'm like, we're gonna have a lot of fun today. Debra is actually an astrologer and psychotherapist, and also the author of The Missing Element. So she's going to be dropping in with us today and just sharing a lot about astrology. I think her approach to it, and any other juicy things we dive into. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I always like to start off the show with this question. What crystals are you currently working with and why?
Oh, I love that question. I definitely have crystals around my house. I used to love chrysocolla. When I think back, that was like my theme because of my throat and wanting to keep my voice open. And as the years have gone by, I'm really drawn to dark crystals that keep me grounded. So I have favorite one. I think my very favorite one was in the Grand Canyon. I took home a 1-billion-year-old rock that I feel humbled in the presence of. So there's a range, and I have them around my house. It's funny, no one's ever asked that before.
Well, I definitely find that it's always really interesting what people answer because it's always different, and I think we can always learn from like the why in which everybody's choosing to work with certain crystals. So that's funny that you said dark too, because for a long time I avoided the like black obsidian or black tourmaline because I felt like there was this really heaviness of like breakthroughs that was going to come. And when I was ready to experience them, I would know. And this last time I went to Tucson Gem Show, I was like, okay, I'm getting a giant black tourmaline. And of course, it's like my biggest tool now in my home, underneath my bed and helps to reflect all the negative energy. So
This is a great story. I should get it for you. I was walking out of a client's home in LA, a very successful family that is well known. I won't use their names. And she handed me a crystal this big. It was like the size of, what would you call that? Like the size of a shoe. And it was pure white, clear. And I was walking through TSA. It was in my backpack. And I got through TSA and the guy pulls it out and he goes, "What is that?" And I said, "Well, did you ever see the movie Superman in the beginning? He's all around crystals. The whole thing is full. That's who I work for." And he looked at me and he was like, "Okay." And he put the crystal back in and let me through. And I've never forgotten. And that crystal lives in my house. It's one of the major pieces I use when I work.
Wow. What type of crystal is that?
Just a pure white crystal, a classical white crystal.
Clear quartz.
But it's the size of it's unbelievably clear and powerful. Yeah, that was a gift that was handed to me that I love that line. I work for Superman.
Awesome. Absolutely. All right. Well, what inspired you like to get into astrology and working with the stars?
It started at a very, very young age. I think anyone out there, including you, that has witchcraft or magic or angels or whatever the energy you live with, it's been there since you were little. And as I can remember, first when I was 10 years old in the Detroit Free Press, going to the comic section, and there was an ad that said, "Would you like your I didn't even know what it meant. And I said, how a little 10-year-old. So I'm writing my name and I'm putting the stamp on the envelope and I'm so excited I'm going to get this thing called a horoscope. And then fast forward, it gets mailed to me. And I guess I put the wrong birth date in, but it was but I will never forget. Like the chart wasn't accurate and I didn't know how to send it back because I was only little. But that was the indicator that my destiny was so strong that it was operative then. And fast forward, I was 18 when I met the first astrologer and she blew my socks off. And when I went to graduate school to study clinical psychology, I did a research project, you're going to love this, because it's in your chart, on mental patients and astrology. So I worked with all these crazy people, so-called crazy, doing their charts, and you have it in your chart. I just have to say that. There's an indicator in your chart that you're a little unusual. And that it puts you outside of the normal crowd, like you can't do normal. And that's what I found in the hospitals. And so that was really my entrance into astrology, was finding it very young, being expressive, like unbelievably enthusiastic when that woman did that first reading, and then pursuing it through graduate school, all through psychology. They thought I was crazy. This was in the 80s, before you were born.
Yeah.
So they thought I was a little crazy.
Well, yeah, I definitely think, of course, yeah, normal. I don't even know what normal is.
Your chart is not normal. Definitely. Can I just say that out loud?
Totally. Yeah, I don't feel, I feel more awkward and uncomfortable in the normalcies and the squareness of life. So yeah, definitely. And it's interesting that you first found around the mental illness and stuff like that. I actually kind of want to ask you, how does someone who might be experiencing something like that, or is, classified as not normal, or is facing these labels that have created a story for them to, maybe believe in, like mental disorders, anxiety, depression, all that stuff. How does astrology really help support them, like find their way back to themselves?
Did you know that you have Uranus on your sun? I love saying it. Did you know that you have Uranus on your sun? It happens once a year for a week. It's very, very rare.
Huh. So I have my chart, like my girlfriend actually had drawn out my chart. It's like, I can't see because I don't have my glasses on, but it's over there. So no.
The sun is your personality. It's our life force. Everyone listening to the show knows where their sun was. I'm a Gemini. You're a Sag. But the planets that are standing next to it, because it's so auspicious that the day you were born, and I hate to tell you this, but the president has it too. I don't even want to say his name. But anyways, the point is, it's people who cannot follow. They cannot follow. So you're back to your question. When there's mental, quote unquote, illness, what it suggests to me, and I've worked with it for so many years, not so much now, but in my past, is someone who's come in bringing a different frequency. It's certainly you. And so their promise is, I don't want to follow. It's not my interest. I have this great story of this man named Bob Whipple that I worked in a hospital. It was a halfway house in LA. And I would answer the phone. It was called Beverlywood. And I'd answer the phone. Beverly would be sane if she didn't live here. It was like a halfway house and Bob Whipple, at the end of a 1.5-year relationship I had with him, he also had what you have, Uranus on the sun. He talked gibberish to everyone. He would talk like food salad. Like, yesterday, my toothbrush fell down and the car ran over it. And I said to my mother, I'm not having chicken. I'm so sick of this soup. And the television went off and the phone started ringing. And I said, I am reading this book out loud. If you don't want to hear it, go in the other room. He would just randomly say things, but he would talk English to me. And so at the end of a 1.5 years of me hanging out with Uranus on the sun, quote unquote, schizophrenic, I said, can I ask you a question, Bob? Why do you only talk to me and no one else? And his answer was, I don't want a 2-car garage. Get it?
I'm like the worst at getting jokes. So it just, that one went over my head.
He couldn't do a 2-car garage. You can't even figure it out because it's so you. You cannot follow. He could not follow. He could not play in me. So what happens now, there's a distinction between chemistry and balance.
I got it. Yeah.
It really requires medication. And I think it's so important to take it. And then there's those people who don't want a 2-car garage.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got you. A little slow, Taurus rising. Your Taurus rising just showed up. A little slow, but you're catching up.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, I'm not ever the one who's ever one to get jokes. Like, my friends will crack jokes all the time, and I'll just go, yeah, and I'll walk away, and then I'll come back and be like, oh my God,
It's called Taurus rising. You are slow but sure.
Yeah, so I definitely agree. So what exactly does like my Uranus on the sun mean exactly?
It just means you were born on a specific day of the year that tells everyone that's looking at your chart that this woman, and look at you, she cannot be part of mainstream. She promised this life, and that's true of, what's his name? There's an inability to follow the consensus reality because your promise is to be a designer. Like, you are in the future and you're recreating something that you remembered and you're trying to bring it to us, but we're not there. So you're like, ew, what's wrong with that? Like, is something wrong with me, says Uranus in the sun, or something wrong with them? And so anyone who has this, it's very rare, by the way. It's not a normal. It happens only once a year for about a week, 10 days. And in that period, we know those people are designers. Like, look at you. Your aesthetic is the centerpiece of your world. So look at his hairdo. Can I do this? They can't see me.
Yeah. But we can call him Voldemort if you want.
What?
We called him Lord Voldemort. Yeah, I'm a Harry Potter nerd. So
Uranus, look at his hairdo. How does he get up in the morning? Someone comes in the room with a blow dryer, blow dries his hair the other way, and then finishes the morning by saying, looks great, sir. And everyone else is going, no, that's Uranus. They cannot understand consensus reality. So it goes to very ranges from mental illness, where they're not playing in the mainstream, to extreme creativity, which we see in you, wanting to stimulate people to think about things that are from the future, all the way to rebelling for its own sake and not knowing why.
Wow.
Can you relate to that?
So that's new information for me, actually. Thank you. Wow.
This is what you learn in my school. What we do in my school is make it very simple. Astrology is way too complicated for someone like you. You think in practical terms. You're like, give me something to chew. Or like when they start going abstract, you're like, what? So I teach, my school's called Applied Astrology because I'm a therapist. So how do I let you learn about you and then apply it to your life quickly so you can say, oh, now I know why I hate when they tell me what to do, which is you. Or, oh, now I know why I really need structure. Some people are the opposite of you. If you don't give them clear directions, they think you're hurting them.
Right. Yeah.
You can see the difference.
Yeah, I can tell you have a very different approach to astrology in the sense of, we are definitely bogged down by so much information now within the spiritual community and metaphysical world. And, I think it's just, we've seen such a rise in this new age movement. And as much as I love it, I also have a lot of, thoughts around how you can be your own unique expression of that which you are here to bring. And I really think you have a unique approach to it. So, what is your philosophy and really what do you see, how you set yourself apart from everyone else, out there?
Well, I speak English. I don't speak that you've got, I do because
that's very true. Yeah.
I could say, oh my God, your sun's in the 9th house and it's conjunct Uranus and you've got Mercury conjunct Saturn. And you're like, what? Or I could say you're super unusual and you love design and you really need to feel like you're in charge of how you put things together. God forbid someone tells you what to wear. Like, this is not happening, Mom. Put your clothes away. I picked my own. So I know that about you. And then what I do that's different, I think, is from a therapeutic point of view is, listen, honey, don't try to change you. So what happens in the school, I love it. In the first class, they all get homework. Like some people in the 4 elements, our system's all based in the 4 elements. Some people can't talk. Like they just don't have words. That's air. Some people can't cry. They can't find their emotional body. That's water. Some people just can't do money. Like money escapes their hand. That's earth. And some people just don't have get up and go. Like they just don't have fire. They can't stand up for themselves. So we learn very quickly, this is my system of astrology. What's the missing element? The name of my book. How do I help you cultivate it? And then magic begins. Because once you identify, because it's not natural, you don't want to build the missing. It feels counterintuitive to say to someone who doesn't like to cry, you have to go learn how to cry if you're going to be a full human. But that is how it works.
Yeah, I love that you bring in the 4 elements. I'm also a feng shui practitioner and we work with the 4 elements to, shift space and create remedies. And so it's really fascinating to see, how the 4 elements are being infused into our lives again, and it's really the basis of our ultimate creation.
In the tarot deck, as you know, because I know you know the tarot, the second card, the first one is the fool, the idiot that jumps into a planet called Earth and says, I'm going to go down there. And everyone's like, what are you doing? That's why it's called the fool. And the first stop is the high priestess goes, everyone shut up for a minute. What am I doing here? Hold on a minute. I have to go in and be still and remember who pushed me off that bridge to get me here. And then the next step is the magician who says, here's the 4 elements sitting on a table. If I master these 4 elements, I can do magic. That's the experience of this reality. If I don't understand these 4 elements, I can't do magic. And for those of us listening to your podcast, we love magic.
Yep.
So you can't live without from feng shui to the ancient Egyptians to the Hawaiian culture that I'm versed in, to the ancient Jews and the 4 worlds from the Kabbalah. Everything has the 4 elements.
Everything. I mean, it's embodied in alchemy. It's how we create that which we speak and that which we create. It's taking it all down to, I started studying like sacred geometry. That was kind of my gateway into everything. And the more that I went deeper into all of that, I just found myself on the four elements. It's basic. It's like, how do we just go back to the basics, in creation?
That's your Taurus. So your rising sign is simple, like make this grow corn. Like don't talk about it. Let's see where the result is. So in my book, The Missing Element, in the middle of the book, there's a test you take and you establish what is the strong, which one's the weak one, and then you read that chapter. So it's basically a how to get to the four elements. There's no astrology in the book. It's just pure concrete. This is so you. Don't you love practical magic?
Yeah, well, that's pretty much what we talk about out here on the podcast and in life. It's my life.
So in my system, your rising sign, which is Taurus, is what you're rising to. It's your ascendant. So you want to aim almost exclusively at Taurus. And for you, that is grounded, practical, elemental textures, taste, smells, and chocolate.
Yummy.
Are you a chocolate person?
I like cacao and like dark chocolate, but I don't like milk chocolate.
You only want the real thing.
Yeah, no, I don't like milk chocolate. I think I used to as a kid, and then it just started tasting. I don't like a lot of sugar, so.
Exactly. You want the real thing. I can see that.
Yep. I'm like, give me the real deal, the most realist of the reals.
A little bit of Capricorn and Taurus in your chart. I'm going to look at that again.
I have a lot of Capricorn. I do know in my chart, definitely. And I'm in my Saturn return, which is also in Capricorn. My Saturn is.
That is the most, so your audience, this is the most important thing of my life's work is Saturn. So it's the four elements comes first, and then your Saturn's an Earth. So you're like the one that reads the labels. You're the one that has to know the quality. You're not playing fake. It would make you nuts.
Mm-hmm. It does make me nuts. Everyone around me knows that.
Okay, so see how astrology, like I don't even know you. I'm looking at your chart and I make it so practical. So I'm not going to say to you, you've got Saturn conjunct Neptune, so you're here to bring that. No, I'm going to say, this woman, this is how I speak astrology. She is here to bring us back to basics through her fascination with the world of the physical plane from the spiritual angle.
Wow.
Write that down.
I'm going to have to re-listen to that. I'm just listening. I do have my pen and notebook usually, but I'm like, I'm just going to listen. But take
your time. Let it sink in.
Yeah, that definitely resonates. Absolutely. The more that I find myself, especially in this Saturn return that I'm in, the more I'm bringing things to the physical, because it's alchemy. It's like bringing everything from this other outer plane here into the world. And ultimately, I really believe like we're here to have a human experience, right? We're already spiritual beings. Like we come from this eternal place, but we signed up to be humans, So it's definitely interesting because in the beginning of my spiritual journey, I was like, no, I don't want to be a human. I just want to go back to my alien spaceship or wherever I came from.
Because you're from another place. That's what I can relate to that. It's been very hard. Back to the topic of mental illness. I have found it very difficult, and I'm in my 60s, so I've been here for a long time. I have found it very difficult to be on this plane of I still find it very difficult to be on this plane because of the injustice and the violence and evil. It's so over my head, but the medicine for me, not only is it the elements and being in love with being in a body, which has really changed, but the medicine for me is astrology made me a total, complete believer because every single chart, and when we're in the school, we have hundreds of students that come to study with us. We only have it twice a year. And when they come in the first, it's like, remember when you're little, you go to school, like it's your first day of school and you've got that funny feeling in your tummy, like you're excited, but you're scared, but you're excited, but you're scared. That feeling.
Am I going to wear the right clothes?
Yeah, exactly. All that stuff. That feeling starts next month with our entrance of level 1 for people to study. And what we see by the third class, they're complete. I feel like a drug dealer. They're completely in love. They're addicted. They're totally addicted because they're learning astrology in simple terms. There's too much information out there that is so complicated. And so when you learn astrology is real and you return to your faith, like, oh, there's a design. As Einstein said, God's not playing with dice. This isn't random. There's some comfort that comes for aliens like us or people that aren't from here to go, oh, well, this is part of a design and it's really well orchestrated by a star design. Like that's really exciting. And then the masterful alchemist says, how do I apply that to this reality? That makes me, that's why I'm here. Otherwise, I think they pushed me on the bus. I didn't volunteer to come. And they were like, Deb, come here. If you take astrology to the masses, we are going to give you presents. And I've been given many presents.
I can tell. You're blissed out.
But my heart hurts all the time.
I know.
I don't know. It never stops hurting. I don't know. They made me so sensitive. Sometimes I wish that I could just be superficial. When I was
gosh.
They nicknamed me Debbie.
I was superficial for a minute. I call it my bad bitch phase. And well, I grew up in Orange County. So I grew up in the mega capitalist, like, religious, it's called the Orange Curtain, for a reason. And growing up there, I originally was born in Thousand Oaks, so I was able to kind of initially start outside of that frequency. But once I grew up there, I mean, everything was all about money. Everything was about materialism. And so it was easy to get trapped in that for a minute, but I was still always the outsider. Like, I drove the biggest lifted Chevy Silverado of everybody at school, and I always had to still stand out. But I was also very much confused and conflicted with these energies of why, people were just given money from their parents. Like it was just, and then I would become envious and jealous. So naturally I went into the rebellious stage, and I rebelled and kind of got into that superficial hurting inside, but fake out, wanting to look like I'm super cool. But really inside I was like, I don't know who I am. I don't know where I'm going. And then my parents' divorce catalyzed me into who I am now. So but yeah,
flavor of rebelliousness, which by the way is Uranus. You need to read about, this is how simple it is. Just go read about Uranus and its influence in your life, and you will be so comforted to know that that was your promise, that you would conform with all your Earth. Your Taurus and your Capricorn were so grounded and wanted to look normal. But when there's an outer planet on the sun, this whole lifetime, you will be the one that says, even to the new age, now that you're in the new age, you'll be the one going, wait a minute, excuse me. You can't follow. And that's so good to know. That's the rebel. And the gift of that is you make us real, because you keep challenging everything. And I really challenged the new age. I was sitting with my boys one day and I said, I really don't like woo-woo. And they looked at me, they're like, Mom, you're an astrologer. I was like, well, that's not woo-woo. They're like, yes, it is. It's woo-woo. But I don't think of it as woo-woo. I think of it as concrete, very practical. People's lives change. They learn information that gives them freedom, makes them fall in love with themselves, lets them love their husband after hating him because he doesn't have any air, he never talks. Then you understand, you go, my God, why am I being so mean to a person that's got a personality trait that now I have language for? So I bet you have a resistance to woo-woo and to the pretend game called spirituality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we could go a whole nother podcast episode about that. I think I've addressed it enough here for people to understand, I did have a show called Woo Woo Wednesdays actually on the Positive Head podcast, which is another partner mentor podcasting community that I love. But, it was fun because it was like a show. It was like a performance. But then the more that I sat with it, it was like my guides and everyone just kind of kept putting up this sign, no more, it's time to step into the ground. And so even though it was woo woo Wednesdays, it just was no longer in alignment with some of the things I was feeling and seeing on the internet and social media. And so I just needed to take a step back. And actually this last summer, I took a break off the podcast and did a lot of deep dive.
That was your Saturn return. That was your exact degree Saturn return. And do you know what your Saturn return is? It's in Earth. Mm-hmm. And you promised to be practical this life. That's what you promised. Just saying.
I feel that. So, it's so beautiful how you kind of bring forth this realistic perspective of astrology. And my question for you is how does someone who's maybe a non-believer, because I do have some people that I know are, how do they not become a believer, but just how can they really understand it from a really basic perspective, astrology?
all you have to do this, we have certified astrologers on my website where I've trained them. And one was saying the other day, this guy came to see her. I love the story. And he said, I don't believe in any of this. My wife is making me do this. But we have a system when you start getting a reading, the very first thing they do is they cite 3 different cycles in your life that were radical turning points, beginning with Saturn return. And then the person goes, then this is a conscious man who's playing straight face, normal business. And he's like, what? So as soon as those 3 dates were marked, and he could say that was, you just named the 3 most significant markers in my life, beep, 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 beep. And at the end of the session, he said to her, I really didn't want to believe in this, but I do now. So that's how we do it. But you got to get them in the front door. And don't try to convert the people who don't want to, forget about it. They don't want to hear from you, and you don't want to hear. Just be friendly and give them a smile and keep walking.
Yeah. I know we've been talking a lot about this Saturn return because there's, from what I understand, there's you just said 3 big turning points in our lives. And how does that exactly work? Is that every, how many years?
So it starts at 21. So your first one. So let's go. Can we do yours?
Let's do it.
So you were born 21. In what year?
89.
So you add 21. So that would have been, tell me, was 2012. Yeah. So what happened?
That was my spiritual awakening.
Ding, ding, ding. So that's all. So then we start with that. Then the next one we go to is, now that was last summer. You made a radical change to reinvent the way that your spirituality looked. And that was your promise this life. Ding, ding, ding. And then we tell you about what I'm not going to do it now, but the progressed moon and what the cycles are that you're in, which I can see right here. Relationship is really up for you right now, and it's really important for you to do the commitment thing, commitment, which is a hard thing to do in your age. So that's the third thing I would say. So easy way is, and this is what you learn in level 1 in my school. By the end of the first set, it's only 6 weeks long. It's an hour and a half each. The end of the 6th class, you are looking at Saturn cycles, and you're preparing, and you help people. Like, this is so concrete for me to say to you, at 21, you're going to wake up. And at 29, you're going to define yourself with a unique voice. She rolled her eyes. You guys can't see it. She was like, whoa.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at. And I'm in a very committed relationship. And so, yeah, on point.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm almost 30. So
that's pretty cool. I'm double your age and then some. Can you imagine how long I've been here?
I don't really see age though. People around me I have so many mixed, I don't really actually hang out with a lot of people my age, I'll be honest. It comes in waves, mostly because I don't relate to most of them. But they, lately we're kind of meeting each other finally, maturity wise, conversation wise. I'm a deep person. So if someone comes into my field, like, I'm asking deep questions and sometimes it doesn't resonate. Right.
You and I have something in common. This is another thing you learn. So whatever house the sun falls in astrology is the most important house, because you can imagine that part of the sky is all lit up. And you and I share something in common. It's the 8th house. So we love depth. They called me Debbie Deep when I was little, because I was always like, what do we do? Like, I would ask my mom. I think I drove them all crazy. Like, why are we alive? Like, what's the purpose? She would be like, can you just eat your cereal? But like you. Like, I always had to go underneath, and that's our promise this life. And the other part of it is it makes us antisocial. So I had to learn that about myself, because I'm a Gemini. So I appear like I've got the social skill. But if you ask my sweetheart or my friends, they're like, oh, she won't come to the party. They know me now. Like, I appear friendly, but I've got an 8th house sun, as you do. If it's not deep and intimate and meaningful, I have to go home now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm blessed to have like people that I've cultivated who are also deep, and those are my soul tribe. But when I get in environments that are not that, I get real quiet and real inner, just go into observation mode. And for a while it was interesting because my partner kind of had a hard time with it, because he was like, you're judgmental, you're this, you're that. And I was like, yeah, I am very judgmental. And also, like, I don't know what to say. And it's interesting because it's also my mom's story, because she had a lot of social anxiety, and now I understand it. I understand why, because it's really rooted in, I think, not being able to relate to those around us.
It's brilliant, 100%. And so you might want to look up Sun in the eighth house because that will free you. There's another example. Just write it down. Sun in the eighth house. As soon as you, and that's part of our school. I'm not going to plug it anymore. But as soon as you know, this is what we learned at that school. Once I realized, because that happened to my sweetheart too, he would see me when I teach and I have these videos and we have, I don't know if you've seen my funny videos. We're up to 8 million hits of one set.
Yeah, you're hilarious. That's why I like you.
So, so so he would say the same exact thing. He'd say to me, we'd be at a party and he'd say, are you going to talk? And I'd be like, I don't mind listening. I need a glass of wine to make it more interesting. Mm-hmm. But I'm okay with just not talking. Like, it was so confusing to him that it appears judgmental. It appears aloof. It appears, but I just find the person who's quiet, who said, I sit next to them.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just, I really think that, and also I'm sure you read energy too when you're in the rooms. So like when I'm reading the energy and I'm feeling the energy, I'm also feeling a little uncomfortable, which can result in anxiety. And then therefore it's like, well, what's the point anymore? It's not even worth my time. I mean, we live in the mountains. I mean, I'm in LA, but I live in Topanga, which is between Malibu and Santa Monica. So it's pretty isolated in a sense. And I'm definitely with the weirdos out here. Like we somehow find each other, and but I feel comfortable, and I like knowing that I can go into the city and be there when I choose. So.
And the greatest gift that I've found as a 1,000-year-old woman is that I know the anxiety, that's such a popular word now, the social anxiety for me turned into acceptance. So I don't talk. So I'm uncomfortable. So I'm going to go outside and sit in nature and take off my shoes. And while I'm waiting for my sweetheart, I have no more need. This is the gift of growing up. Zero need to make myself anxious because I don't fit in. Like, I think it's shocking, especially in my business, because they all want to socialize with me and I never socialize. I mean, once in a while I will. If it's a deep, meaningful gathering, I can do it. But it's really hard on me, as it is on you. So there we have, eighth house sun. You will learn. And once you guys learn about your nature, you accept it, and there's the comfort.
Yeah, I love that acceptance. Yeah, it is really fascinating to see how much anxiety we've given it so much energy. It's like this, and as we know, where we give energy to, it expands. So, the more I think that we focus on this thing that's taking over so much of society's, experience is it's very fascinating to see it being like.
Well, here's how I'd like to name it, because I think no one says this, why children are experiencing it. The planet's in a desperate state. There is no comfort anymore in hoping for the future. Like if you ask young children or teenagers or your millennials, they're like, oh my God, what do we do? So there's an undercurrent in the collective zeitgeist that says, I'm scared, it's not safe, we have no hope, and that's real. Mm-hmm. But if you can say it out loud and you identify that one voice called Negative Nelly, that's what I call her. Here comes Negative Nelly. She's taking over my entire body, not to mention my emotional body, my thought process. Negative Nelly, sit down. And as soon as I name her, and put her in her seat, my anxiety goes away.
Yeah, I've named mine Trixie. So we've actually gone through in some of my rituals that I've done with others, like to name their ego or name their, that which we do not, like Voldemort, basically, to help really separate the conversation. Because it's, and that's, I believe, like once we can separate the ego conversations with our true soul conversations, that's when we can really do the work, and move forward and progress in life. But until we realize and recognize it's this other voice and we can say, you're going to go sit in the corner.
I think the deepest wound right now is that we don't know about that. That's called voice dialogue, by the way. Do you know about voice dialogue?
Mm-mm.
Hearts therapy. It's 101 psychology, and it lets people identify with the voice of the observer as distinct from the undermining voices.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, it's also fascinating, I think, just hearing your approach and really understanding like what you take away from astrology and how you've turned it into something that's really just, I mean, practical. It's grounded. I think that's where, again, going back to what we said earlier, you know, why people cannot relate to it, because it's what you said. It's like 10th house, 9th house, like it's so confusing. And then you're like, that person's like out there and I can't, you know, relate. So,
that astrologer's out there.
yeah.
So
Well,
true.
how do you feel like our destiny, I mean, you've kind of already gone through it, but how do you really feel like our destiny is written in the stars?
Well, there's options. This is what people don't realize. There's a destiny that's described by your chart. You are going to be a rebel, and you are grounded, and you are slow. However, there's a free will button just to the right in your house where you live. You probably can't see it because you didn't know it was there. And the free will button says, I'm choosing to not play out my chart right now. You have free will, honestly, but it's a required muscle that only happens when you study, when you learn, when you practice, when you meditate. It's not natural to have free will. The default is to slip into, I don't know why I did it. I don't know who I am. I'm playing dumb. But once you wake up, and that's what your podcast is about, my whole life's work is you guys, I was born under the year of the rooster. Wake up. Guys, if we sleep through this movie, we have nothing but ourselves to blame.
Yeah. And we're going to come back and go back through the loop again. So, I mean, it's really beautiful to when, you know, we're just here to, I like to say, walk each other home, or yes, wake each other up, or just kind of sometimes we need that like shake, you know. And one thing that I love about the podcast and just creating this lifestyle is that I'm able to tap back in, because I also have, you know, we've got modern day, we've got the Muggle world, and that can be a little challenging to navigate. But when we come back to our roots and explore the magic and remember the magic, I think that's really where, you know, we find ourselves.
Well, I think you are a very good example. I think that honestly, anxiety and fear and depression are all symptoms of being alive. If you're not feeling depressed or anxious, you're screwed up. Tell the truth. How could you live in this life and be a sensitive human and not be sad? Now, once you realize that, and this is the gift, I'm so excited about working with people your age, because I wish somebody would have told me, like, Debra, it is awful here, but you are going to be an agent, a change agent. And how you're going to do that is by being authentic. So you won't get stopped by negative Nellie, but you'll be friends with her. I put her in the corner and then she comes back out. I don't know who pays her or who invented her or why she works also overtime. She's always there. Who pays that lady? Honestly, I wonder. The unconscious mind is riddled with deep pain. And that is, as Eckhart Tolle said, the pain body. Now, here's the good news. You're so pretty and you're so full of love and you're so full of wanting to make a difference and bringing us the new future. We can make a difference. And that's why you're listening to the podcast. And that's why we study astrology. And most of all, that's why we get up in the morning. Because if I'm not improving this for my children, to shoot me, like take me out of I'm sorry. If I didn't come here to make a difference, I don't know why I'm here. I don't get it.
Right. Yeah, that's really a really solid point. I think that really for where I'm at now is like I get to realize that I am the responsibility, and we all are. And, you know, my pause with this last summer break that I took was for me to really think about, okay, yeah, what is my voice? And I have a voice now. People are listening. Now, where am I going to lead them, and myself included, right? And for me, it's really rooted in a lot of activism and how we can bring that into our daily habits, because we could sit here and talk about astrology all we want. We could sit here and talk about tarot and, you know, all these metaphysical things. But if we're not applying it to our lives and actually going out there, then it's pointless, right?
Boy, you and I are on the same page. That's 100%. I have a good friend that you know, Shailene Woodley, who is, I don't know why she just came in my mind, but she reminds me of you. She was she ran or was filmed in Divergent. Did you ever see that film?
Mm-mm.
Or Big Little Lies. You've seen Big Little Lies. She's one of the stars in Big Little Lies. I know I don't watch it either. Look at you. I'm the same. I didn't even know who she was, but your people listening will know her. She's a very famous movie star. She was in Descendant with that very good looking man that's a Taurus. What's his name? That
Yeah, I'm
married the.
also the person who's always like,
I'm
I've
just like
never
you.
seen the
That's so
movie.
funny. Anyway, but the thing about Shailene, and many of your people will know her, she is supporting Bernie right now because she's an activist. So all I want to say is to use every single day. I feel her so strongly because she's so committed. And she's a little younger than you, but in your age group, we've got to make sure, whether it's a podcast or it's your art or it's your political position or you're helping somebody that doesn't have the means, you have got to make an activist position in this life. And that can be meditating, it doesn't, and this is what you learn in astrology. Everyone has a different way to do it. But if we're just going to pretend, well, they wouldn't be listening to your podcast, the ones that are pretending, would they?
I don't think so. I definitely don't think so. No, I know I'm very connected with a lot of the listeners here, and I know them. Like I do my best efforts to really connect. And for those of you that I really don't know, I mean, I really would not think that that's who's listening. So, and if you are, well, here's the message.
I want to say this, that we do have a school starting. It's funny, it's today, but I know this is going to air in a little while. And for any of you that do want to take the course and you mention Nixie's name, we will give you we will support your community. That's what I want to say. Because my fantasy, it's such a funny fantasy, is that astrology will be in the school system at a practical level. So kids will grow up knowing like, oh my God, I have no water. No wonder I can't stand crying. Or, oh my God, I have no fire. No wonder I hate being the center stage. And that compassion, which is the subtitle of my book, Compassion for the Human Condition, will allow people to, like, I'm scared to tell the honest truth. Will we survive this transition? Will the planet as a species, will we have what it takes to continue the kindness and what was promised to us through the Dalai Lama and through Christianity and through Judaism? But no, I don't know at this moment. And so I am a firm believer, and I tell this to my kids all the time, just be yourself with full abandon. That's the greatest contribution you can make. Even if you're screwed up, but tell everyone, don't keep secrets. That's the poison. And don't let yourself stay home alone too long. That's very dangerous. You got to get out of the house and make sure that you get, if you have a chance to get in the ocean or to take your shoes off and walk on the grass or to lie in the stars, let this life touch you, like kiss it. Don't leave this place without you jumping in with both, because as you said so well, if you leave here, you have to come back. So you may as well start getting the lessons now. Ha ha.
Oh my God, this is so much fun. I love all of your perspectives. We definitely must have shared some lives together before.
Definitely. You and I really share a very similar point of view.
Well, I think that the root of it is bringing laughter into it, right? I mean, we've done nothing but laugh on this podcast. And sometimes it's interesting because I'll interview and it'll be so serious and so like flat. And for me, that doesn't work because I got to have chemistry and I've got to be able to bring light to this world, because that's what, why else would, like you said, why else would I be here? There's so much seriousness happening. We could have a whole podcast about whatever, the severity of what's really happening. And, I've been listening to a lot of climate change podcasts and all those things, and, realizing like there's a lot of really intense shit happening, but we've got to bring light to it, and laughter and being ourselves and being free of being serious and playing. That's important, right?
So let me tell you the last piece for your chart. You have four planets in the ninth house.
I do know
the ninth house is humor, philosophy. It's the flavor. It's the top of the chart where we're like, oh my God, this planet's so weird. If I don't turn into a humor machine and make a joke, I'm going to hurt somebody. I mean, you really are built to take it's all in Capricorn, the heaviest shit, and lift it into an elevated state. That was what you said. That was your promise. With that little moon in Virgo, I'm going to do it with detail. And Taurus, slow but sure. I think you're doing a really good job over there.
Thank you.
I have such a strong feeling that you're so your chart.
Well, you make a solid point because it's like the more that I've done the work to know who I am, yeah, astrology has really helped me there, but you're just bringing in the physicalities of it and making me remember and realize, like, oh, yeah, that is who I am. And that's where I really believe that astrology, like you said, can provide personal transformation.
I want to give you permission to take the class. I'm going to give Nixie a special. If you want to take the class, we'll give you the family and friends rate. Because if you get into it, and at the level that I teach it, you ask such a good question. Why is my astrology different? Because I speak English, and I'm a therapist that wants people to have compassion for how screwed up everybody's screwed up, by the way. So don't feel alone. Everyone's chart is like, what? Like yours is so serious and so funny at the same time. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like you're seriously funny, but it's like, but you can't do it. You can't do one or the other. You can't be serious too long and you can't be funny too long.
She's good, guys. She's really good. She's really good. Yeah, I definitely, I love your approach. I love the like youthfulness that you bring. And it's just refreshing.
Never know as an old lady. I think the important topic to bring up in the name of our time, of this lifetime where we're at, is this is not a surprise to the prophets. This was predicted. The Hopis saw it coming. There was going to be a radical change. They wrote about it. I have firsthand experience of the Hopis. The Nostradamus predicted this would be the golden age. The all of the Egyptian systems, particularly the Mayans. Everyone knew this was coming. But what we didn't know was that the disintegration would be at this level of emotional distraught, like that we'd be so stressed emotionally. And so there's not a language. It should be said that climate change is not an external experience. It's climate change on the inside. We're running hot. We're running cold. We don't feel our bodies. Like, talk about thyroid. Talk about how many women I know who have gone through physical symptoms that reflect climate change. But we're so funny. Instead of taking care of our inner world and saying, and I am a big proponent of yoga and health food, and I've been since I was a kid, and making sure that I really do balance my life, because I am a workaholic without a question. I've got a lot of earth like you do, but I am, as you perceptibly saw, you little psychic, my kid in me, if I don't have fun every day, I'm like, no, not doing it. So I have electric bikes and I have swimming. I'm a teenager. I don't get pimples anymore, but I feel like I should. Like, I'm such a youthful dipstick. Like, I'm so bad. I have a company with all these employees. It's all women. There's almost 20 of us in my company. And I'm in the middle of, you're going to love this. I'm in the middle of a staff meeting. It's on Zoom. Everyone can see everyone. And then all of a sudden I'm throwing things and it's so boring. Why do you think they call those board meetings? They're so bored. And I cannot, my eighth house like you, I'm like, oh my God. So now they just ignore me. They carry on with the meeting because I've got a lot of earth people. And sometimes I notice that they're like trying to not look at the, because I'm like sticking things to my forehead in the middle of the meeting. I'm like, I don't understand why the kid had to get squished.
I don't even, that's where I think we meet. So over the weekend, it was my partner's birthday, and today is actually his birthday, and there's a lot of synchronicities there because I have his birthday tattooed on me before I met him. And yeah, it's pretty crazy. And so it's a very special day for us. But, this weekend we had a party, and like I said, I have my soul tribe over. I'm definitely in the Burning Man scene. And so we love to play dress up, and I grabbed my big, gigantic, I have this big turban wrap that's like from a costume shop in San Francisco, like vintage, that I got from a festival. And I was like, you know what? I just want to dress up right now. So I put on my big fur coat and put on the big turban, and I ran outside, and then I ran back in my house, and I realized, I was like, wow, my house is like this gigantic like fort, and I need to play. And so I had all these numbers written on my whiteboard, which you can see behind me. And I had all the numbers of my goals for the week because I have another business and team and everything too. And I'm like, fuck the numbers. Like, I'm just going to play. I literally erased everything and wrote, fuck these numbers, just play, bitches. That's literally what I wrote. I was like having this huge download about how I don't need to worry so much about these numbers. and to just play with them, like play with the number. Don't get so worried about them.
You and I honestly, maybe it's the same planet or something. So strange.
Same.
I have the same. I'm in the middle of a launch right now. We have thousands, like literally tens of thousands of people hearing about our school. And I know that I'm supposed to be, I guess, worried or something, but I just do my prayers that come out of joy. And I know, like, I can't tell everyone, I just told everybody, but I know that my sourcing is not doing those chanting from some ancient. I just give my absolute delight and send it out like it's a frisbee. Like, okay, you guys, here's my energy. Foo! And then it comes back and I say, okay, if you want to come play with me, because we take this place way too serious. And by the way, whether you're serious or you're funny, it doesn't make a difference. So why wouldn't you choose funny? I mean, what's the difference? One looks miserable to me and one looks fun. Now, what decision is that, said the Gemini? If we have to decide between miserable or funny, where is the decision in that?
Mm.
So please give yourselves, that's why alcohol and marijuana and substances have their value in moderation, because they take our point of view. This is in your chart. That ninth house is shamanic, which is why you love Burning Man. It's funny because a moment ago I was going to talk to you about Burning Man. I just left it out because I thought, why would I say that? But it's clear to me you have that lineage. And the shaman, the ninth house shaman's gift in this life, and this is in your chart, is to disrupt the order, which is what alcohol and marijuana and all drugs do. They take you out of the ordinary state so that when you return to it, you've got a refreshed angle. That's what Carlos Castaneda, who had 4 planets in the ninth house like you in the good old days, he talked about. You have to change your point of view in order to come back to practical reality without getting this place to be stale. So you're built for the spice called a little bit of weird in my soup, a little bit of weird in
Oh my gosh, you're good.
Well, it's just you promised us.
Yeah.
I don't think you came. I think they pushed you on the bus too.
That would make sense because I can be very stubborn too. There's that Taurus in me, but that would make sense.
And you know what else is so crazy about you and I? I have a Hebrew tattoo on my arm with my sweetie's name on it 10 years before I met him. His Hebrew name is on my arm. But what was that birthday? Why did you put his birthday on your body?
So what's really crazy is, so Friday the 13th, they have, when I was 23, I believe, I got this tattoo. And on Friday the 13th, I don't know, in America here, I don't know, where are you?
In America.
Okay. So I'm in LA, and they've got, Friday the 13th, they have any tattoo shop that you can go in and get a tattoo for $27. So why I chose to get a yin yang with 13, because they have all these different ones. I mean, of course, it's intuitive. I chose the yin and the yang with 13, and it's right on my side here. And that was the most painful tattoo I have. Like I have tons of tattoos. That was the most painful because this guy, he grew in me. And looking back now, I realize I had really painful relationships, and I had to go through some of the most painful relationships to find this person I'm with now. And it's just, it's a no-brainer. It's the most healthy, beautiful. He's it, king, queen, the whole thing. But I chose that, and we didn't realize until probably 4 months in that not only did I tattoo this, but we met on Friday the 13th on his birthday. So it's chilled. It's just crazy, how we set these storylines up, and how when we're in alignment and we're on, I guess, in the vortex, it's like these things happen, right? And I met him through my soul tribe, and I had already met him before, but I didn't meet him, So... yeah.
Do you know that 13 in the Mayan calendar? Are you aware of this?
So I know that, well, maybe what you're going to say is the divine feminine number, if that's from what I know.
The Mayan calendar
is 13. Yeah, you're right.
It has 13 days in a week. And the 13th day is the Mayan calendar's culmination. Every week, they have a 260-day calendar. So there's 13 days, 20 sets of them. And so 13 is the number, the power number in the Mayans. And it has to do with us being afraid. It's also the witch number, which is why there's no 13 on the elevator. It's my favorite number. So I'm going to do Me Too, Me Too. We have a Me Too song going on here. And similar to you, although 13,000 years later, I had relationships, met my partner now whose name's tattooed on my arm. And it's effortless.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with, it's like he always says, this is his joke. I don't know if it's true. He says, I think I was you in a past life. I was like, listen, can't be me in a past life. But the point is that he knows me so well. We don't bump because I understand why he's late and he understands why I don't want to talk. And I understand, like, we have a complete effortless happy
I get it.
birthday to us. I'm so glad it's your sweetest birthday today and we're celebrating with Debra Silverman. I'm going to send him a big, fat, wonderful rainbow of love.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, he'll definitely be.
True love is the single ingredient that makes this life worthy. The only reason why now I'm having so much fun, because I wasn't having so much fun, and all of you out there who suffer for being depressed or sad or not, or confused or feeling like you're lonely or you've got anxiety or you've got that stupid negative Nelly, the only medicine besides astrology that has made it all work is love. Thank you, life. Yeah. How did he show? But where? I keep saying to him, I don't want to get mad at you, but where were you?
I know, right? Well, for me, it was really clear. I had to love me. You know, I had to go through that journey. So I had to find myself to find the other part of me. So, and I think that's always where people ask, you know, well, how can I find the true love? Stop looking. You're not going to find it.
And I had to be financially independent, as that was my karma this life, so that I would not require anyone else to provide. And that's what it took. So once that happened, I did the work that was required as a single entity that said, I love you, life, enough to do what I don't want to do. Like I have so much devotion to that which created us. I'm so deeply in reverence to the astrology, the magic and the wisdom of that ancient system that it put me on my knees this whole life. So even when I complain, and I have complained in this life, I've never taken my eye off. You're a very good interviewer. How come I'm telling you all this? You're bringing out the depths of me. Here goes Debbie Deep. I have never taken my eye off my devotion to that which created us. And I know as an astrologer, in no uncertain terms, that the design is perfected from the top down. Now, from the bottom up, I could make a phone call and say, excuse me, when you designed the human, what were you thinking? Because we're just bad creatures. Like there is something definitely wrong with people that hurt other people and children. Like this cannot be accepted. So I'm a little pissed off. I'm afraid that when I get home, they're going to take me into the front room and go, Debra, will you stop complaining? I was like, I've complained a lot. Like, I just think it's really mean here. However, I'm in devotion as I see you are.
Well, I think that's also part of the human experience. So it is a tricky one, though. It is tricky. Well, Debra, I think we could chat for probably a whole day. The time went by very fast here, and I think we might have to do round two. But, you know, just to wrap all this up, you know, thank you so much for coming on and really sharing your soul and your energy and your medicine and your wisdom. I know you've been talking a lot about your course. So for those that might sparked interest and feel deeply resonant to you as their mentor or teacher, where can they find this course? I know this is going to be out the last few days of the enrollment. So
you're the only one that's going to get whoever's listening to this, you will come in the very last day and we will make an exception because we know that you're a magic being. You go to Debra, it's 3 words, Debra Silverman Astrology, Debra Silverman, astrology.com is my website. And you'll see the school enrollment. And if you're coming in the very last day, which is what I think is going to happen, and you guys are enthusiastic about, it's $1,000 course and we have a lot of payment plans, you can write directly to one word, apprenticeship, at DebraSilvermanAstrology.com. And then you can tell her, listen, I was on the show, I am goddess, like let them know and they'll sneak you in because really, honestly, you'll be coming in at the very last second. And if it's so true that your calling is calling you, your voice is saying, you know what, I could really use a dose of falling in love with myself to find true love. You've got to start with you. Please call us. Write us.
Yeah, we'll put everything in the show notes too, so you guys can go down there and check it out. Wow, well, fine. I think we got a blurb there. Okay, so the last and final question I have for you, lovely Debra, is I love to wrap the show up with this question. What does it mean to you to be a goddess?
No one's ever asked me that before. That's a beautiful question. It's funny. It brought tears to my eyes. It's interesting. I would say the gift that life has given me through my body, on the back of my business card for about 25 years, it said the pleasure of being in a body. No one ever asked me what it meant. I found that peculiar, but I have always honored this temple. And as a goddess who is in full devotion to the pleasures of being in a body, it is my responsibility to take care of this temple. And so it brings me to emotions, because I think we were not told. I was never told I was a goddess. You've just said it. I'm not sure it's true. I'd have to ask somebody. but if I am, let's assume I am, because I do have a great, profound respect for this body. It is my privilege to be an eminent, radiant example of pleasure. And that's what I think the goddess's promise was. Let me find pleasure in this human experience and do it for all of us.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Debra. It's been so much fun. So much fun.
I know. I feel like you're my new friend. I am coming to LA for the LA Summit. Do you know about that?
No, please tell me. I'm here in LA.
Well, Google it. It's LA Summit, and it's extremely expensive. I think Al Gore is speaking, and Brene Brown is speaking, and Eckhart Tolle, and they've asked me to come speak. But I will be in LA. I'd love to see you. I will be in LA. When is that thing? In November.
Okay. I'll be around.
Yeah, let's see if my assistant can't talk to your assistant. Let the witches make a brew.
All right, Debra. Well, thank you so much again for everything that you brought to the show. We are so honored to have you here. And you guys go check her out. I mean, she's got so much stuff. On YouTube? Could just, I think, go to her website. You can find everything there. On Instagram at Debra Silverman, right? All that good stuff. So
astrology on Instagram. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right, sisters.
Thank you. I'm bringing you so much love, and I'm celebrating your sweetheart's birthday in my mind.
Amazing. All right, sisters. I love you. I hear you. I see you. Bye for now. I'll see you next time.